reach far enough.
I guess if you grab them at the checkout, then it's not candy.
We're still talking about Eric eating candy.
Yes.
I've seen him drink real soda.
All right, it is 4 p.m. on January 6, 2026. We're going to call the City of Iowa City Work Session to order. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to City Hall. First item on the agenda is University of Iowa student government updates. I don't see them here at this moment, but should they come in later, we will come back to that item. We're going to go ahead with item number 2, clarification of agenda items.
Are we going in order of the packets or?
Just the formal agenda tonight. Anyone has any thoughts, comments that need to be made aware of? Hearing none, we'll move on to the item number 3, information packet discussions, December 11th. December 18th.
I did have a question actually about IP 3 in the financial report. Just a high-level question that had to do with the slides or the pages that talked about investments by institution. And I just noticed that there was a significant uptick in investment with Bankers Trust, and I just wondered if someone could talk about that a little bit. And what does the city look for? Is it a matter of that, better rates from certain banks, or
Yeah,
it just seemed like it was a fairly significant uptick?
It's what our staff would do is really a request for proposals or request for current rates, and then we base the investment decisions on those rates. Obviously, we want to stay diversified with different institutions, but you can see fluctuation based on the rates offered at the time we're making those inquiries.
And then I also wondered, this might be a little bit outside of scope, but are there any things that staff is keeping an eye on with Midwest One having been bought?
We've been in conversation with them. They were good at reaching out on the day of the announcement, and have tried to forecast how that transition will go. But that's going to be a longer process here. In addition, Chris O'Brien, Deputy City Manager, and I did meet with the president of Nicolay Bank, who is acquiring Midwest One, and had a great meeting with him. That was probably 2 months ago or so, shortly after the merger was announced. So right now it's kind of business as usual, but they've been good at communicating with us.
Thank you.
All right. December 26th. And December 31st. So we do have our IP number 6, the joint entities meeting, which is going to be January 12th, and just wanted to see if there are any items of interest. There's one agenda item so far, which is We're doing an update from the Johnson County Nonprofit Collective, and it'll be an overview on opportunities for fostering systems of cooperation.
I thought that I had read in the paper that there was going to be an update on Trip Connect, because I know that at least the county staff right now is recommending it not be in the budget, that it may not continue. And I thought that I had read in the paper that there was going to be an update. Does anyone know whether that's on the agenda or has been talked about?
I just contacted North Liberty just to see if she'd had any items, and that was the only one that she gave me was from
Okay.
Coralville.
Okay.
It would be worth asking in some venue. I don't know if we want to,
Right.
like, for Johnson County, say, can you update us? I did have a different item, though.
Go ahead.
So I received a phone call yesterday from Mandy Remington about the field mediation technical assistance grant that the city and the county were awarded. So she's going to provide just a very brief update on that. I do believe there's a public event coming up yet this month relating to that. So there'll be information.
Yeah, that's going to be January 27th, I believe, 6 o'clock at the library, and I'll provide that information to you later this week so that you have all that. I don't think it's been published yet by the communications teams at the city and county are going to publicize that, but just to kick off to that program, again, January 27th, I believe is that date.
I think I would like to put it, it might be too tight of a window, but before break, we had, it was the Emergency Response Coalition, Nikki Reed and Emily Meister with with United Way, talking about the SNAP crisis that we had undergone. And I think a number of us have had perhaps individual conversations with Tom Martinez, who serves on the board of the Coralville Food Pantry and also works kind of at a think tank on food security within Iowa. I would be interested in having them come speak to joint entities about sort of a kind of a debrief, how did it go, but then looking forward, because I understand there's some real instability potentially within the state about what SNAP will look like. Like I say, I'm putting this maybe more like as a side note for the next joint entities, because I'm not sure that they were very willing to speak to it, but I think so much time has gone by that they haven't really been able probably to prepare. And so it would be useful to just keep that, and I'll just surface it again when we're coming up on another one, if that sounds agreeable.
It does. I don't know who, I know an emerging collaborative of a couple food banks working together also.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know United Way has been engaged too with facilitating a lot of that. I don't know the right person to sort of deliver that, but I like the idea.
And it might be that it pull those folks in as well.
Yeah,
So
but it's clearly a regional effort.
So it sounded like not for this meeting is the suggestion, but just something to keep in mind.
yes.
And then the field mediation grant, I just wanted to make sure Remington, she's gonna.
Yeah, the county will put it on the
They'll
agenda.
put it on the
Yeah, I
agenda,
just
so
want
we
to let
don't-
you all know. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So, Trip Connect, I mean, it sounds like they may need to have some conversations amongst themselves, but certainly, if if someone want to reach out to the county to see if they're ready to present, on Trip Connect, they can certainly put it on there. So far, there's no Iowa City item that I've heard that we will add to the agenda. Is there anything that anyone want to propose at this time, or shall we just move on to the next agenda item?
We can move on.
Hearing nothing, we'll move on. Anything else from December 31st information packet?
Thanks to staff for putting together the strategic plan, sort of looking backwards what we've achieved. That's really helpful. I know setting goals is really important, but then following up is also critical. So thanks for doing that, and I will happily share that out with people who ask, what are you doing?
And that is our next agenda item, number 4. So strategic plan status report. So I will turn it over to Kirk to lead us in this discussion. Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor. Kirk Lehman, Assistant City Manager. What a topical transition.
You're welcome.
Appropriate. Yeah, so this is really an opportunity just to discuss, what's been happening over the past year, past fiscal year, and then also look forward to the future a little bit. For those who are interested, the strategic plan for 2025 is now available on our website. I'll have the link at the end, but it's icgov.org/strategic plan. So if there are those in the public who are interested in looking it up as we're talking about it, I'd encourage you to check that out. It's also in the agenda packet. So I wanted to start tonight by just talking a little bit about the importance of the strategic plan, how it's structured, how we use it, and why it's such a critical document for decision-making within the city. In terms of when it was adopted initially in 2022, December of 2022. And since that time, it has been updated in 2024, and it is a living document. So it's a document that as counselors see things that change over time, we encourage you to revisit it as needed. But it really summarizes the vision, strategies, and key action steps for the city to undertake from fiscal year 2023 when it was adopted, all the way through fiscal year 2028, which ends June 30th of 2028. So right now, this report marks somewhat the halfway point of the strategic plan, but as it comes to your budgeting process, you're already going to be looking out at FY27. So it's a document that really does feed into everything that the city makes as it relates to policy, as it relates to operational decisions, and budgets, very importantly. So the way that it's structured is it lays out a vision, which is essentially the desired future state for Iowa City. And then it lays out key strategies to help get to that state, and then action steps that can help implement that. The reason it's so important is because it provides that strategic focus as we're looking at all these elements within the city. And so it's a document that really does get referred to by city management on, if not a daily basis, probably a weekly basis, but a very regular basis where we're always looking at this, especially as we're coming up with some of those longer term documents that guide what we do. In terms of its structure, it's structured with 3 areas. It's got values, which is how the city does what it does. It's really integrated throughout all elements of the plan. Then there are impact areas that are the strategic areas of focus. That's where you find most of the action items within the document. And then there are also the resources that are needed to implement the plan. So that includes the facilities, technology, and equipment to do it, the people that actually carry out the activities, and then the finances that are required to implement it. So I will touch on each of these elements. I'll spend most of this presentation talking about those impact areas because that's where a lot of the rubber meets the road. But first I wanted to delve into those value vision statements because they are so important to what we do at the city. So there are 3 values that are embedded throughout the plan: climate action, racial justice, social equity, and human rights, and partnership and engagement. As you look at the strategic plan, within each action item, it references which ones might be relevant. In many cases, all of them are relevant, but this is really the way that we approach our work. It is includes the desired and included within the desired end states in every impact area, and it is a critical piece of the way that we look at what we do at the city on a day-to-day basis, as well as with that strategic long-term focus. So you'll see it throughout. I won't touch on them individually, but you'll notice as I get into some of these impact areas how it feeds into it directly. So most of this, like I said, I want to talk about it by impact area because that's where the rubber meets the road. What I do want to say is I could talk about the city for hours and hours and hours. What I want to do today is highlight some of those really key things that we accomplished over the past year, and especially celebrate those victories that we have had because we've made such good progress on many of the action steps included within the plan. So obviously there's great work being done every day by the employees of Iowa City, and we really want to take an opportunity to celebrate that with a focus on some of those strategic actions that council has identified. Another thing I want to say before I delve into it is that core services remain one of those primary things that we as the city do. We're providing services day in and day out, and while we don't highlight those all the time, they are a critical piece of what the city does, and the strategic plan really does reinforce the fact that we want to maintain those core services even as we do implement some of these strategic initiatives at the same time. So the first impact area then is housing and neighborhoods. First and foremost, I wanted to highlight just some of the innovative housing projects and the ways that we're trying to bolster our publicly owned housing stock. It is something that is ongoing. So even within this action plan, you'll notice things that have changed since it's been published. So some examples of recent ways that we've been trying to bolster our public housing stock are acquisitions of townhomes in eastern Iowa City, acquisitions of townhomes in North Liberty. In eastern Iowa City, we've added another townhome since we put this together. But we're also looking at, beyond acquiring existing properties, looking at developing our own properties. So the city is currently in the process of trying to figure out the best way that we can approach the development of publicly owned housing. We're looking at how do we restructure our divisions, how do we bolster our support from our consultants, and we're actively working towards the development on North Summit Street for up to 36 city-owned affordable units that's currently underway. So we're fortunate in that is supported by our $3.75 million pro-housing grant that we were awarded, but that's going to be a continued effort that you'll see over the next couple years. We are also always exploring new partnerships in ways that we can approach housing. One example that I'll give is our partnership with Johnson County, where we are working with them to provide 15 units of housing for veterans. That would include supportive services. It would be provided by the VA. It would be supported by HUD veterans vouchers, and it really would be a first of its kind project in the state. So we see examples like this as innovative ways that we're trying to do it. In this case, it will be publicly owned as well, so a lot of the time those things aren't mutually exclusive, but we're generally excited about all the work that's being done, and we look forward to continue providing those opportunities. Also wanted to touch, as it relates to housing and neighborhood, on some of the works being done by our Parks Department. Obviously, it's a major component of the services that we provide, both in terms of open space that we provide, but also in terms of recreational services. So one of our goals is really to provide those sorts of services near where people live, within a walkable and bikeable distance. And we do that in two ways. One, we're constantly investing in our parks. So you'll see every year a few park projects that are being done. Example shown on the slide is College Green Park, where we replace the playground as they become out of date, or as we're trying to improve accessibility. Both those things are always on our mind. And we're also always looking at expanding where parks are provided based on where the city continues to grow. So we recently expanded Hickory Hill Park. We added a park on the west side, Adelaide Joy Rogers Park on Shannon Drive. And we're looking at the future locations where we believe development is imminent, such as Palisades Park, which we're planning or looking at 2027 for that being done, and then also on the far west side and the far east side, and we're always keeping our eyes open for opportunities there as well. So trying to provide those opportunities is another thing that is always a focus of city staff, and I think we've made a lot of progress towards that in 2025. Moving on to mobility, which is the second impact area. One of the key things that have been occurring over the past years is obviously our Fare Free Transit program that we developed. It was set to expire in 2025, but because of the great success that we've seen with increases in ridership, offsets for carbon emissions, and reduced fares paid, especially from residents that are reliant on that as an affordable method of transportation. All of those things really led us to support the continuation of that service. So thanks to new parking rate fee increases, electric and gas franchise fees established in FY25 and FY26, we are excited to continue pursuing this project and seeing how growth continues in the future so that we can continue to meet our climate action and equity goals. That being said, it will be a project that requires continual annual review, as we do see operational expenses often increasing more than some of the support that we have, and things such as federal transit or federal funding volatility is always something that may impact it as well. So it's something that will require continued work, but we believe that it has been a great success, and we look forward to seeing that continue past this last year. And then also looking more broadly at our transportation network, this action item focuses specifically on kind of those active transportation modes. One of the things that's positive about the way that we approach our work at Iowa City is that we really try to take a comprehensive approach as we're approaching our transportation network at the city. So every time that there's a water main project, every time that there's a road project, we're always looking at, are there accessibility improvements that we can make? Are there sidewalk infill projects that need to be done? And we've had some great successes, projects that have been completed over the past year. I'd like to highlight the pictures up there are North Dubuque Street and North Gilbert Street. In the case of North Dubuque Street, we added lots of pedestrian accommodations. We've made lots of uses for that as a very active streetscape in our downtown. And in terms of North Gilbert Street, that's been a gap in our sidewalk network, and so we're excited about being able to add sidewalks and really build out the network that we provide throughout the city. But beyond that, we're also always looking for bike projects, implementing our bike master plan. And then we also have major projects that don't make this slide, but that still provide those pedestrian accommodations, things like our Court Street project that's being done, or Rochester Avenue that was completed last year. All of those include pedestrian elements. And then also looking in the future, obviously we have our Burlington Street Bridge project coming up in 2029, and that's going to be a substantial investment and a substantial improvement for all users of that roadway. Moving on to the economy impact area, one of the things that I really wanted to highlight is just the continued implementation of our inclusive economic development plan, especially as it's related to investments that we've been able to make with our ARPA program funds. One of the big ones is the renovations at Dream City have been complete. So they've been working on creating an entrepreneurial hub at their property on Southgate Avenue in the South District. It's really been a fantastic success. Since completing the renovation, they've hosted dozens of workshops, helped more than 100 entrepreneurs, and they also provide micro retail space that's desperately needed throughout the city, and that is affordable, and they're looking to expand that because it's been such a success. They also continue to build partnerships throughout the area. I know that they're hosting Kirkwood classes. They've hosted us as city staff at that space, and it's just really been a great asset for the South District and for Iowa City as a whole. And beyond that, we have provided significant funding to provide technical assistance, grants, and other assistance to small business owners and entrepreneurs, especially those that might not have had access to those resources in the past. It's really made a tremendous impact throughout the community, and we're excited to continue that work in the future. And I would also be remiss when talking about the economy if I did not mention the substantial investment that we've made in 21 South Lynn Street. So this is a project that began in 2023 with the acquisition of that vacant lot. And over the past 2024 to 2025, we've gone through a public input phase, issued RFP to redevelop the site so that we can get a public-private partnership that can redevelop that property for really substantial public benefit, and have selected a proposed project for that. So as you all know, you selected the Grand Rail proposal in 2025, which is a 6 to 8 story commercial and a residential mixed-use building. What's notable about it is that it doesn't include a request for TIF funding, so that does mean that the taxes that it generates will go more towards those public services throughout the community. So that was a unique aspect of that proposal, and we're currently in the process of working through that development agreement and expect continued progress on that over the next year. Moving on to the safety and well-being impact area. One thing that we really wanted to highlight is the mental health liaison program that was developed in partnership with Community Crisis Services. Our goal established in the plan is to have 24-hour coverage by the end of FY28, and we have made continued progress towards that. After launching it in 2021, we added that second liaison in 2024. The notable change in 2025 is that we launched it as a co-responder model. So with that model, we have one mental health liaison who is based at the police station, and then one who is actively responding to calls with a sworn police officer co-responder. And that's really allowed us to expand the number of calls that we can operate on while still providing adequate capacity to follow up on those calls and make sure that people are connected to the services that they need to be connected to. So we just got our total calls for 2025, and they responded to just over 1,200 calls. So that's over 12 months. And compare that to about 650 calls in 2024. And while that was a partial year of having two mental health liaisons, it still shows substantial progress. And what we've seen is that generally having that mental health liaison in the field, we've been able to triple the number of calls that folks can get on. So it's been a really positive expansion. And then also looking at public facilities throughout our city, including things like our senior center, which has been critically in need of investment. We've recently completed Phase 1 in 2024. Phase 2 should be completed in 2026. That included things like roofing, the exterior envelope. It included windows, doors, painting, all those things that really make that building pop from the outside. And I'm sure that you've walked by it recently, but it looks fantastic. And really, our next focus is to shift to the inside. There's elements of that building that haven't been touched in many years, and we're excited to be able to continue implementing that senior center master plan. And then I did want to touch on some of the resources, which isn't an impact area, but they are things that are necessary to be able to make sure that we continue to make progress on our plan. One is prioritizing data-informed decision-making. So as you all know, we got our responses in FY25 with our community survey. We're really excited about those responses. They've been able to, they have allowed us to benchmark against similar communities. We'll continue to use that to be able to track progress over time as we continue to make improvements. And then it also does provide feedback that we can use to help inform our priorities and services. We've been trying to incorporate those metrics into council documents, and we've also been exploring our other metrics that we provide you in documents such as our budget, where we provide metrics every year that can help us make decisions and help make sure that you understand what's happening at the city and how things are moving forward. And then also alternative revenue sources. Of course, I have to mention the recent approval by our voters of the local option sales tax, the 1% local option sales tax, which is estimated to provide approximately $14 million in annual revenue for Iowa City next year. However, that does go into effect in July, so that's fiscal year to fiscal year. It's not year to year. We will have to wait as those dollars come in. It's not something that gets fronted to us, but it does provide lots of opportunities for continuing to accelerate our investments in strategic priorities, as well as facilitating some relief to our general fund, which provides those core services. So making sure that we're continuing to provide the high-quality services that our residents expect and deserve, but also continuing to advance these priorities in your strategic plan. So that's my springboard into looking towards the future. LOST obviously facilitates a lot of things. That being said, it's not going to be a silver bullet. We are still dealing with several headwinds that will affect us. So we've continued to see a lot of our operational costs exceeding faster than our taxable valuation growth, specifically since the pandemic. There's also always volatility as it relates to federal funding, as it relates to tariffs, and property tax reform at the State House could substantially impact what we are able to do and what would be responsible to do. But that being said, we're in a pretty good position to continue working towards many of these goals. Like I said, a lot of that's facilitated by LOST, but we've also been really careful in the way that we've budgeted. We've been able to maintain our AAA bond rating, and all those things help keep us in a great position to be able to make progress towards our goals. And of course, the countless hours that staff puts in towards doing the work day to day. So when we're looking towards the future, there's a couple ways that we're looking at it. One is an expansion of existing efforts. So I'm just highlighting a couple efforts that we want to continue expanding at the city. We've we're always looking at boosting our partnerships with service providers to help address the growing challenges as they relate to homelessness in our community. It's something that we've been working with them over time on. It's a continued challenge, and we are looking forward to continuing projects like working with Shelter House on their functional zero homelessness study, things like that, that might be really positive ways to continue meeting the needs of our community. Also, always looking at other partnerships with our nonprofit partners, whether that be social service providers, or whether that be our arts and culture nonprofits. All of them provide really critical services to our residents, and we want to continue to see those thrive and succeed. And then also looking at the continued success with our mental health liaison partnership with community. We do continue to have that goal of full coverage by FY28, and we'll continue to make progress towards that. Now, beyond that, we have several partnerships that were established as pilot programs, primarily due to ARPA funds that have come by, but we also have some other one-source or one-time funds that we've been able to use to test things out and try to see what works and what doesn't. And that gives us a unique opportunity to say, yep, we've had several partnerships that have worked great, and we'd love to see these things continued. So looking at how we avoid that ARPA cliff for some of these really essential programs that have a proven track record and making sure that they continue to succeed. So we have lots of examples, things like investment in childcare that we've done. We have several workforce development efforts that have really kicked off. And also always looking at our climate action related initiatives and making sure that those continue to chip away at our climate action goals. Again, LOSS provides great opportunities towards this end. And we think that there's going to be some exciting discussions coming up in our next fiscal year budget. And then also renewed efforts. So some of these are things that we've started, but that will really kick off over the next couple years. But they're things that I really wanted to highlight. So one example I'll give is our comprehensive plan, which is currently underway. We do expect to adopt that in 2026. But beyond that, we are looking at that zoning code update that's really going to implement those land use changes that might be incorporated in a comprehensive plan. We also need to think increasingly about resilience, climate resiliency, given some of the climate impacts that we've been seeing in our community, increasing drought, increasing other climate impacts, flooding, et cetera, that we need to consider. So looking at how does our climate action plan reflect that? And beyond that, we need to look cohesively at our riverfront. So not just within our jurisdiction, but also looking collaboratively with the other jurisdictions along the Iowa River. Obviously, when it comes to watersheds, that's not something that one jurisdiction can solve or even approach on its own. And then finally, continuing those investments in our facilities that really are critical to the provision of services within Iowa City. So one element of that is implementing our City Hall needs study, which includes things like solutions for our Fire Station 1 and Police Station, which really need to be moved off-site to continue making that progress. But then also looking at other investments throughout our city. Obviously, we're making substantial investments in our transit and equipment facilities, in our senior center, in our rec centers. All those things are things that are going to need to continue over the next several years. So while our strategic plan has always been an ambitious document, I will say that I think that we've made really substantial progress. I think we're pleased with our progress over this past year. We believe that we're going to be able to continue to make progress towards implementation. And I don't really have a conclusion slide, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have any thoughts that you wanted to share. I think that this is a great opportunity to do so. But pleased with progress, and we hope you are too.
Oh, please go right ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I just have sort of a discussion question for council, so.
I did have one question, actually, and I had noticed it in the report, and you had highlighted it as well, about the pilot that is working with NCJC and then the bike library about resilience hubs. And I know that's a pilot, and that I saw also the current action plan is being revamped for 2027. Is that correct? I mean, maybe that's under the climate action. piece of it?
Oh, the Climate Action Plan, the Climate Action Commission is looking at,
Revamping their,
not revamping, I would say prioritizing.
Okay.
What are the actions that they think is going to be most effective towards implementing the climate action goals of Iowa City? The Resilience Hub aspect of it is something where they've gone through their planning process. They've started making investments towards implementation of their own plans, and I believe that they continue to make steps towards that, and we will continue to support the efforts as they continue down that path.
and on balance, are the two locations for the pilot finding success? Are they feeling good about what the pilot has been sort of manifesting for them and the progress that the hubs themselves have been making so that it looks like it can build upon itself?
So my understanding is
Wait and
that they'll be able to continue building upon their success. I know that they've hosted numerous workshops. They've definitely made improvements that will help in times of need, that can help make them a critical community resource when there are disasters, for example. And they have been involved in our climate action planning, and I think that, I don't see that going away, is what I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add real quick to that, I think both locations have been a big success, and we're still working with the bike library and neighborhood centers, but they've both been able to leverage the dollars that we've provided to do even more. Now, you look at what the bike library's done with their capital campaign, and our money kind of dovetailed into that, and I think brought a lot of credibility and excitement to that project. So they're doing amazing things, and of course, seeing neighborhood centers expand to a third neighborhood is really, really positive. So that Resilience Hub model really is something that we want to replicate. And I think there's some interest in the community from nonprofits to join and see how they can not only become a Resilience Hub, but maybe incentivize some of that work as well. And then regarding the question on the climate plan, Kirk's correct. Right now, the commission is focused on prioritizing those remaining objectives in the plan. But your strategic plan does call for a reimagining of that climate action plan, and that'll be part of the budget proposal that you're reviewing in the next couple of months. We're going to propose some resources, financial resources to send us on that journey, and we'll probably need a little bit of discussion with you to really frame up exactly what you want to see in that plan. So think of that climate plan redo as something that those discussions start in 2026, and maybe we get kicked off in 2027 once we have that firm direction.
That's a good segue to the question that I had for council. So with the climate action plan, the commission is prioritizing the remaining action items. I was going to ask the council are we interested in doing an exercise like that? If we're not going to do the full kind of strategic plan review, I just would ask us to consider taking the items that remain in the plan that aren't done yet and maybe just prioritizing them as a group.
I like that.
It won't take a day.
Well, so I mean, I do remember when we were working with ECOG in the initial plan development, which I think that process didn't have everyone because that was earlier than the
22.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that we did was with like the initial ideas that the council generated were plotted on like impact and effort on like quadrants. I found that really, really helpful when we were able to then like map that and say, and I think staff took those sort of the priorities, but I don't think it's reflected in the plan necessarily. And we haven't revisited that exercise of the prioritization or even the idea of getting us thinking about of those things that are left, how would we address sort of the impact versus effort analysis?
Effort. I remember that was the other piece that was really helpful, was sort of like, okay, well, this is a big lift for staff, or this is actually something that is on you all as council with political capital. And so I agree that was really useful, and especially since we're at a halfway point, I mean, that can only be helpful, I would think, to staff to sort of say, at one point we thought this, but you can drop that one down or what have you. So I think it's a great idea.
So are you thinking this, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So one, I wanted to say, I hope we can take a step back and actually see some of the work that's been done. You know, because of the strategic plan and the direction that we've given staff and the actions that we've taken, the staff has taken, we've taken steps as a council. This is a beautiful document to not pat ourselves on the back, but to actually take a moment and say, hey,
Yeah.
we are, you know, sticking to the strategic plan, even though sometimes we get sidetracked in conversations. But when you look at what is before us right now, I'm very impressed, and I want to say thanks to our staff for, you know, listening to the council and really presenting us with opportunities that really does, you know, fit with our strategic plan. What you're asking, I think, is totally fine. The one thing that comes to mind is, are we just going to focus in and not be expanding? And I'm sure that'll come up. And would it be more of a report that we can look at first from that exercise, and then we determine where we want to go from there? Because oftentimes we can, you know, keep circling. And if we've already done the exercise, I would say let's hear back. Let's have a discussion at the work session, and then from there we can determine what our next steps are. I think we all know that our staff, they're listening to us. When they do presentations before us, they're bringing in the strategic plan. Our commissioners and our boards, they're also, you know, front of mind, thinking about, you know, the strategic plan. And so that's what I would suggest that we do first, is to get that report back, and then we can have a discussion and determine where we go from there.
I think that when was the last, I'm not entirely sure what it's called, the last edit to the strategic plan?
Shortly after I started on council, so that would have been the winter of 2024.
Okay. I would enjoy being at one of those meetings. And I think that just to give some ideas here, I want to echo what Mayor Teague said. This is a beautiful document, not only in terms of like, you look at most municipalities and they don't have, I think the vast majority don't have this ambitious or cool of goals as we do. So just, thanks everybody for putting us down that path before I was elected. And also, just how beautiful it looks and how I think comprehensive it is. And the average person who is not involved in municipal work or council work all the time, they can read this and be extremely well informed. I've actually done some field testing in that department where I just made a random friend read this, and I was just like, and they were just like, I had no idea a lot of this stuff was happening, and this is really cool, and I understand it a lot. That's just one anecdote. But some ideas that I've had in terms of direction, I love seeing in the housing and neighborhoods. Like clearly, staff has been listening to us when one of the 1.7 is explore innovative housing projects and bolster publicly owned housing, and also respond to the growing homelessness challenge in collaboration with nonprofit partners through enhanced street outreach partnerships, data-informed strategies. And it says further down in there talking about reaching functional zero. And I think since our joint meeting with not only the county, but then our joint entities meeting with people from all over Johnson County, I think that it doesn't have to necessarily be an action item in and of itself, but something that is as comprehensive as an entire action item or impact area to be that comprehensive to where it has different, because this is a huge project that I know is technically germane when it comes to being under housing and neighborhoods, when it comes to being under safety and well-being, but reaching net zero homelessness, I think, is something that is kind of like, from what I've heard of council, it seems kind of like unanimously we want to go down that path. And I know that we are waiting for a study to come out, which is a huge part of this. We're waiting to understand what the funding impact is going to be from the federal level. We're still waiting to hear that. It could be any day now. Regardless of what that is, the same goal remains, but the timeline might change, the strategy might change. So I think we will have to wait for a lot of that stuff to come out. But I would love to see when we have all the information, when we have the study, when we've done the research, having something in the strategic plan further reflecting that and gives it kind of the specificity and in-depth look as opposed to as an impact area, as opposed to just kind of like a footnote in it.
I will tell you that I am, waiting for that report.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
And, that's something that definitely Maz and I have strongly, been advocating for is, the homelessness, and we're waiting somewhat patiently and somewhat urging, and I think the conversation when that happens will probably come with some great desire to act from this council and and partnerships with other municipalities throughout Johnson County. But yeah, waiting by, sitting along, the sidelines waiting, it is hard to do. I'll be the first to tell you.
Yeah.
But I do believe that when we do get that and have that continued conversation, that I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of desire to see some actionable things in short time frames.
Absolutely, and I'm just flagging it for now. I'm not saying we make any decisions or edit it right now. I guess I just wanted to explain my desire to maybe have one of those meetings or sessions, and also just kind of give one of the main things that I was thinking about, just to so everybody's aware and the public is aware that that's my intention.
Yeah.
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 I think this is actually, it's interesting because it was something that I actually was thinking about coming into this meeting, because I've been a huge proponent, when we did the last meeting we did with the update of having, counselor buy-in and participation in this process. Balancing that against the, one of the advantages we're seeing with this is the fact that we've had a, more or less stable strategic plan since 2022. And since these things are multi-year efforts, because we have to do things like wait on reports in order to, so we're not, chasing our own tails or just running off, like the cat chasing the laser pointer. And making sure we're keeping our efforts focused and well used. But I'm wondering, as I was thinking about this, again, before this meeting, if there's maybe not, in order to see exactly how much of a revisit we might need, maybe it's I would like to continue thinking about this, but let me toss out this idea of some homework for us. So as I was reading through this report, and then the report that the really nice report you've given us tonight, I'm going through there, and I'm still really satisfied with what's there. Like, nothing jumped out at me like, oh, we're missing something in a strategic level. The tactical level, things like that come and go as we get new opportunities. I've seen the council and city staff been pretty adept at like saying, okay, well, this circumstance has changed, let's go after this, or this opportunity has come up, or this opportunity has gone away, or we have to replace ARPA funds, whatever, as those things change on the ground. But I would hate to do is, even if it's well-intentioned, is to yank the rug out from underneath some of these ongoing efforts. And I don't think that's anybody's intention, but I think that could be an accidental result. So something to think about, and I'd be okay with us pondering this and maybe circling back to it, is do we want to, as council members, sort of say, okay, well, here's a couple things I think we actually would like to work on. And then, that might just give us 2 or 3 small areas we might not need a full meeting for, or it might give us a very focused meeting if we wanted to do that. And then we could get into things like, okay, so if we had a couple of ideas, hey, how feasible would this be? And then we could get into that resource allocation thing, like, okay, this would be another really good idea, but if we did this, we'd have to quit doing something else. And so that's, I reminded like when we were talking about power lines and power distribution here about 3-4 years ago, and we had our climate action people look at that, and one of the, Sarah Gardner and others were really good about explaining, okay, so we could do this, but we'd have to, we don't know if it's going to work, and if we were to do this thing and duplicate the efforts that other cities like Des Moines were doing, we'd have to quit doing like our Climate Fest because we would be taking resources away. And so then, but that was a good way to like, okay, so maybe we need to, so we get to that level of evaluation, but maybe even before we get to that, it's like, is there really anything here that we really feel needs addressing before we like, I guess in tail dog, which is wagging whom. And I think all of it is in good, we all want to see the good things happen. So just a thought. This was what I was thinking about before this meeting and before Councilor Burgess kind of brought this up. So, and apologies if it's not fully formed because I just.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think the intention is to have something a little bit more, and I feel like this is what the meeting would be about, to discuss these exact things about, what allocated time, effort we want from staff to go towards certain things. For me, it would just kind of be an expansion of the transparency for what we are already doing. And also, once we get the report and get more information and know what the funding is going to be like, then we can actually make those plans in an educated manner and set those goals in an educated manner. So I think that the resource allocation conversation would come at a different point. This would just be something that would make it as transparent as possible and put it forward as, make it public, because we know this is a priority. We've talked about it. We've had these joint entities meetings. So this is just about putting that onto paper and having the updates reflect that.
I'm trying to remember now. Do we have, so when we did this before, when we had those documents, I think they might, like in terms of the allocation of resources and the balance of effort and stuff like that, I think those are still part of the original public documents, but that might be back in 2020, December of 2022, or some of the work product leading up to that. And if nobody remembers off the top of their head.
I don't believe it's in the strategic plan document
It
itself.
might not be in the document itself.
I think
but I'm
it was
thinking-
probably in the materials as it was being developed that were publicly available. I'm not sure if, we can find them, but I'm not sure that
If
they're
that would be
publicly available
helpful.
now.
To like kind of, so instead of reinventing the wheel, Councilor Wyline, if that would be helpful to like, somebody to locate those things and share those with you and kind of review what's there already, and then we can maybe go from there.
I do know Sala wanted to jump in.
sorry.
And then.
No, I'm going to change the conversation if you want to.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I very much like the idea of homework in advance, so we have something, to really talk about and maybe take less time as a full group. But I just really appreciated that particular exercise. It doesn't need to be that, but I think if there's something that can sort of like pull us back to the, yes, we have all these things that are either in progress or not yet done. And, and I appreciate also like the long-term part that you brought up, Sean. Like, obviously, the budget is almost ready to be published, and this wouldn't be like changing, major timing of things. But I do think just in that idea of where we are in the 2021 to 2028, if we're not going to do a concerted, like, do we want to sit down and add more things? Maybe we can just get on the same page of some prioritization.
And just as one last comment, and I know you have been so patient.
No, that's fine.
On this topic is that I seem to recall, we got regular updates on ARPA spend, right? And we had an opportunity to look and say, do we still feel that this, right? So I'm seeing this exercise, the sort of the amalgamation of suggestions to be similar in that we look at what we have kind of a large scale or a revisiting of our priorities. Are they still there? And then we can be able to provide outward facing about like, these are our priorities, these, so that the public can know better. So it seems to me, in some ways, I've been listening, and I think we're all circling around the same topic, and just there's different ways to go about it. But I think ultimately we're talking about, what do we have? Are there gaps? But more to the point, what are the priorities now that we're 2 years in? And we have a slightly different council. We've had extenuating circumstances or changes in circumstance. So anyway, I agree that this is a good exercise, and it'll allow us to kind of get back on the same page, or to write the page, right?
Yeah.
And to help for the next 2 years. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and to whatever mechanism it may take, the goal being it is a priority for council, it is a priority in our community, and I just originally liked how it was communicated, how it was very clear, how it was structured in the impact areas in the strategic plan. I talked with some staff about it. There was, ideas were had. What it kind of came around to was, if it's a priority, it should go. It should be clearly stated in the document of documents, which is the strategic plan. So I guess that's where I'm coming from with it. But whatever mechanism it may take, if that goal of priority accountability to us is met, whatever it may be,
I wanted to talk, but you're next.
Something different? or
Different
the same?
topic, different
Okay,
topics,
different
yeah.
topic.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I want to talk about Big Six on the racial equity, social justice, and human rights. I guess I recommend adding one clarifying sentence to the committed to equal protection. Section 2 explicitly stated that this protection applies to all Iowa City residents, including immigrants and non-immigrants residents. This sentence should be just brief and be less near to the end, maybe, like in the paragraph, so that it reinforces inclusivity without shifting the focus away from LGBTQ plus protection. I just thinking about adding, for example, single sentence clarifying that the Iowa City human rights protection apply to all residents. I don't know what it is, but something like that. And I think this clarification help ensure immigrant and non-immigrant residents understand that local civil rights protection apply to them and align with Iowa City long-standing commitment to equal protection under the law.
Just so I'm on the same, is this what's labeled as page 7 of the progress report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I see.
And just for clarification, will you maybe state the changes that you're suggesting once again?
Thinking just a single sentence applying to, like, say that Iowa City human rights protection apply to all residents, including immigrants and non-immigrants residents, regardless of status. No other change needed. That's only that.
And I want to make sure that I'm looking at, is it right after, is it associated with this sentence?
Yeah, toward the end of the sentence, yeah.
Toward the end of the sentence.
Oh, you're
The
talking,
end of the paragraph, not the sentence, sorry.
Oh, where it wouldn't change anything up
No,
here.
no, it's not.
It would just be adding.
Yeah, it just say like something on the end of the paragraph saying that, this Iowa City's human rights protection apply to all residents, including immigrants and non-immigrants residents, regardless of status. I think the human rights apply to everyone. And sentence like this, without shifting anything on the top, just at the end.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I personally don't see any concern. Certainly, we can see what folks are thinking. I'm seeing some nodding of heads, so, yeah. I will want that change to be added.
So if council is agreeable, since you don't formally adopt this update document, I think we'd like to work with Mayor, Councilor Saleh and just edit this ourselves, and then we'll check it with you to make sure it's meeting your intent, and then it'll be updated on the website going forward. But again, you don't formally adopt these update documents. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
I wanted to transition to, if I understood the the initial comment about climate action was we should take a second on that item to look at our climate action plan, sort of review what we've achieved, what's left, and find that intersection. Is that what we talked about doing for in the climate action element? You're very-
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
I think I was trying to use the segue. So Jeff was saying, or Kirk said, that the Climate Action Commission is looking at the existing Accelerated Climate Action Plan, what's left, and going through a prioritization exercise. So I was saying, like, they're doing that with that plan.
Got it.
I would like us to do that with the strategic
Okay,
plan.
not specifically us engaging in the climate.
No,
Okay,
right.
and
No,
that's,
sorry.
I was wanted to get clarification on that
Thank
one
you for
first.
asking. Yep.
But then also talk about the mobility items specifically. It's top of mind. People want to talk about pedestrian safety and bike safety. It's something I think we're all committed to. And I love the report because it shows all of the really good work that's being done. And I think that there's this plan that's right, and there's the work that's getting done, and then there's sometimes maybe how does the community get engaged in making the decisions, and how do we get engaged in making the decisions on that? That I don't know. We've tried different things. We had the citizen-initiated plans in the past. That's currently being studied. The citizen-initiated traffic calming plan. And I'm curious, in the context of this strategic plan showing all of the work we're doing and us maybe reviewing it, is thinking about mobility and engagement together, if that makes any sense. Because that's, with parks, we make huge progress, and we have a Parks Commission that is responsible for prioritizing where the efforts are aimed in parks. At least they have a say in that. And when it comes to mobility, that's top of mind for me right now is that specific item. Is we're doing all this really good work, and the staff is just moving forward, and where's the middle? Yeah.
Like our formal session today, it was a joke about more commissions, but you're not joking.
I'm not suggesting another commission. I'm talking about, like, what do we do when we have the strategic plan that is working, but you want to add on to it, and like,
So,
and yeah.
yeah, I do think that this council has kind of somewhat made it, the intention is to work within the existing plan through 2028. And making, because there are huge topics, right? There aren't a lot of specific, projects identified. I'm looking through this, and I'm saying, a lot of these things are not, it didn't come from this dais where we said we want this particular item.
Right.
We use big global terminology, and our staff took that information and brought it back to us. We are going to be going through this budget season. We're going to be going through the CIP, and they listen to us when we're in deliberation all year long. And they hear us when, an individual counselor, maybe it isn't, everyone, but they listen to us, and they still bring things back. So while I know our intention is really good to say, hey, we should be great stewards of what we are responsible for, which is this strategic plan. I think Councilor Burgess, saying, let us, have a conversation of some type, a little more, at stepping back, looking at this, and seeing if there's anything that we want to elevate, because I still believe that that is our job, that is our role. And I heard, from Councilor Hermson, and kind of his take on this as well, where we can do our homework and then we can bring something back. I think we can continue this conversation quite a while. What I might suggest is, one, we're going to be going through a budget season. We're going to be hearing a lot of things that are specific things that this, staff will present as related to our strategic plan. And I'm always impressed that they're thinking about things that, really does kind of bring to life our efforts. And yes, there will always be a project or something that we want to expound upon that's going to come up at random times throughout throughout our course. And I think we'll still make space for that, provided that someone presented and there's, 3 or more that want to have those discussions. But I think if we, unless there's more comments about, the document itself, what I would suggest is that we do get that report back from ECOG, and then we do homework along the way. We're going to be doing homework through the CIP. And honestly, I really believe that it'd be embedded through our budget season, but we can certainly put an item on the work session should that be the desire. It will be an item on the work session because it'll be in the information packet, and someone can bring it up. So if the council agrees, are we comfortable with getting that ECOG report back in an information packet? Or do we want that as an agenda item on the work session? We will have ample opportunity to, especially this season, we're probably going to have to be looking at some priorities and making some hard decisions based on the presentation that the staff will be presenting to us. But are folks comfortable if we get that report back in an information packet from ECOG, and then, bringing up whatever folks want to talk about at that time? We will have a lot of budget discussion this time around.
Sure.
Yeah. So we'll do that. I will say, if there's anything else about the items that's here, thank you so much, Kirk.
Can I ask a clarificatory question, Mayor? Which report are you talking about from ECICOG? Are you talking about the effort,
The housing.
effort impact report that was produced for the original plan that was adopted in 2022? Or are you talking about updating that to the current action items?
It is just receiving that report, and even if it's been presented already, just
Yeah.
re-putting it in an information
So
packet.
the original, gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And
When was-
using that to then say, do we still
Okay.
agree with this?
Yes.
Like, just to make sure, like, that's the
Yeah,
next
it'll
step
be,
after that?
it'll be
Okay.
on us
Okay.
to review, and if there's things that stick out,
Changes or?
That's our homework.
yeah,
Okay.
do
So
our homework.
When was that report done?
They'll find it and they'll bring it to
Yeah.
us.
I'm just curious, like, how,
Probably 2021 is probably.
yeah, because
when it's-
I don't
maybe
think, what you're
2022.
talking about, I don't remember ever
I
seeing.
don't think it's ever
Yeah.
been in like a packet. I think it was part of the council's internal work as we went through the initial strategic
was-
planning
it was like-
process.
Day 2, remember we
Yeah.
did that first brainstorming, and then they took
And so,
brilliant sticky notes and then worked through it to say, what's this grid? And that came to us for day 2, so that then we could work through whether we could start playing with it before anything was locked down, as far as, do we really think that this is the priority? Is this the thing, right? Am I remembering that right?
yeah, and I think the
That was
document
something
will
that-
have a
yeah.
lot of items that aren't in the strategic plan because it was a larger universe. So just to be really clear, Mayor, I was imagining like if we took the existing items and did that same exercise, which we don't have to do all together, we could do that as homework. But then to just have that visualization of like, are we on the same page of what we think is, most impactful? That's just that's the
And
idea.
if I could piggyback on that, just because for those that weren't, one of the things we did as a part of that process was we were like, okay, here's the 40 things everybody wants to do, rank them 1 to 40, and then they were kind of scored out that way. But part of our process in doing that was like balancing, like, and they were broken down by category too. But that was a way for us to like, okay, well, you can probably realistically, we can't do all 40 things or whatever the number was. What do we really want to focus, and which things we want to leave on there? And so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, and we did a lot of that again, out of session scoring. And it actually it was surprising how much that actually added clarity,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
clarity.
There was a lot more alignment, I think, than I had expected, and
Yeah.
that was a really helpful, like, group
Right.
reinforcement.
I mean,
So one clarification, because I think I heard, certainly we started with this big board of all the things, but what we're asking for is when it was dwindled down. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know what work product you're looking for, Mayor. I think the thing in my brain was like being able to do that plotting exercise based on what we have winnowed down, right? Not using that huge universe, but saying like, of the actual action items, could we go through that exercise again?
Well, and in some ways, I mean, it's,
Or review, or see it, review it.
We haven't
or-
done it with the current ones. We only ever did it with the bigger universe to get to the current ones. So, again,
And
we
it-
don't have to do this. This is just trying to clarify
Well,
what I
and
had in mind.
without getting in the weeds, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, is like, we have the green, yellow, red. So we could take, at that point, the yellow and the red
Yes.
of what is existing in this to say, and how do we feel about these things? If it hasn't started yet, we could even be that much more simplistic and say, of the things that haven't started yet or are not in process, how do we feel about them? But it's with this existing document, right? I mean, that way we're working within a universe
yeah.
that we all know.
Yeah,
And it also doesn't create extra work for
Right.
staff to create something new,
Yeah.
or go back and say, well, some of these things were actually not even relevant anymore because we're 3 years past.
I'm with you there. I think it would
Yeah.
be confusing to step back so far in time.
okay.
I mean, it'd be fine to see that as a piece of collateral to understand how you were all thinking 5 years ago. And maybe if there's a way that it was reported out that you want to see it again, then when we do our homework, I can do it in that manner. But
Sure. And I think go ahead.
yeah, I don't think that looking at process work from 5 years ago from a different city council that didn't end up being the strategic plan that they're working off of now doesn't make sense to me.
Let me clarify, too. I think part of my idea with that was I was trying to be helpful to Councilor Wyline, who was talking about some of the things he was talking about were things that jogged memories of mine from our earlier process about public, the documents that exist and things like that. So in an effort to just, not to say that anybody has to look at anything, but just to make everybody aware that wasn't there, that these things existed, and if that would be helpful to request, that they would be there to grab and look at, to see some of that, if that work product would be useful for anybody, it's kind of, because they do exist, so, and if you weren't part of that process, you would have no way to know that, so. That's all, that was just, it was more of a, if that feels helpful to somebody, it exists, could be asked for the old work product. For the newer stuff, I like the idea of taking a look at like what's there, the yellows and the reds and oranges. I think there's a couple of different things, but yeah, and starting there and looking at that. Does that help hopefully clarify?
Now that I am looking at this a little more closer, I do think working off this document, if, Councilor Burgess,
Yeah.
this would be the one we would work off of
Right.
because of the, and again, we're going to be getting the information from staff during this budget season. And if we did our homework and there's something that really speaks to us, I feel like, during budget, anything that can be brought up because it's a part of our strategic plan. It's a part of, the hope that we're wanting to change. So if kind of hearing what the desire is from the majority right now, it is reviewing this document
In a lot more detail.
and just bringing forth some of those if it speaks to you.
So the homework that we would do would be to review and prioritize the things that are yellow, orange, and red, and where that ranks for us, come to a work session and talk about those things and give that feedback to staff.
I'd even back up one more step and just take a look through there and see if there are things that you feel like need that sort of revisit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not sure that, and this is just me, one of 7, I'm not sure that I feel like I'm at a place where I would need that, but if others do, but before we even go through the process of having a more formal ranking, it'd be more like just going through and seeing, okay, just carefully looking through and say, okay, there's a few things here I need to change, or no, what, this is fine. And then we're not spinning, and, we're not using anybody's resources unwisely.
Yeah, and again, I'm mindful that, August, September is when we, kind of state our priorities for any budgetary season.
And I'm not suggesting we do this right away.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah,
Fair.
yeah.
Fair.
But again, I do think, I love the idea of, because this is our document for us to be great stewards of. And so maybe, just looking at this and if something, certainly it can be brought up during budget season. I think if it's stuff, so.
And Kirk, if it's helpful, just because I do reference it, there is from ECOG September 2022 Prioritization Summary Report, 5-year strategic plan, which I can send to you if that's more helpful than you finding it.
Thank you.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
great. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's
Sounds
also
good.
archived in the council documents, so.
Yeah, I'm sure that we could find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
save
get
you
it to you
time,
more
though.
quickly.
But
And I think if it's okay, just put it in the information packet. I would say if it's not in the on the 20th information packet, then the first one in February, just so that it's there for council to see.
I like it.
Anything else from council and anything from you as well? All right, well, thanks for this presentation and thanks to staff for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent.
We'll move on to item number 5, which is council updates on assigned boards, commissions, and committees. We just went through that process this morning.
I'll just say that Better Together did meet in December, and while there are the different pillars, one of the big focuses was on the river. So they are really taking that up in hand and working with regional partners to make sure that kind of the health of the river in terms of recreation, accessibility, and then also for conservation. Those 3 things are key to the work that's going on in terms of the river. There's, multiple pillars, but that was the one that really stood out most, and I think was probably at the moment of most interest to council since we've been talking about that recently. So.
Muy bien. Probably most commission or boards and commissions were on holiday recess. If nothing more, we are adjourned until 6 p.m. For our formal meeting.
Fantastic.
It is 6 p.m., January 6, 2026. Happy New Year to everyone that is present in council chambers and that is watching virtually. I'm going to call the City of Iowa City meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alter,
Here.
Burgess.
Here.
Harmson,
Here.
Mo,
Here.
Select,
Here.
T,
Here.
Wyland.
Here.
All right, well, welcome to your City Hall. And just want to take a moment just to acknowledge that we do have myself this morning in the organizational meeting that was reappointed to mayor, as well as Megan Alter, who has been appointed to Mayor Pro Tem. And just wanted to just make that public announcement. Also wanted to just state gratitude to our former Mayor Pro Tem, Mazahir Salah, and just wanted to give her a great round of applause for all the work that she did on the behalf of the City of Iowa City. We're going to move on to item number 2, which is proclamations, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And it states, whereas the civil rights movement of the 1960s have profoundly impacted the course of American history and continues to shape the direction and debate of our society. And whereas one of the great leaders of the 20th century movement is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose dream is no less inspirational and important today than when he first expressed it over 60 years ago. And whereas even with the gains of the civil rights movement over the years, there are many goals and needs that must be pursued to continue our commitment to achieve justice in our society, including a commitment to economic justice in the face of increasing disparity between rich and poor. And whereas as we look forward to the future with optimism, inspired by Dr. King's legacy and informed by his wisdom and vision, let us rededicate ourselves to keeping his dream alive and be reminded that we are united together as one community. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 19, 2026, to be Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Iowa City as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and encourage all of us to recommit ourselves to achieving Dr. King's dream. And receiving this proclamation is Human Rights Commissioner Roger Lusala.
Thank you, Mayor Teague, and thank you, Council. Roger Lusala, on behalf of the City of Iowa City Human Rights Commission, I'd like to say a few words to represent the great people that I work with. And the famous I Have a Dream speech by Dr. King is what most of us remember when we're talking about the work of Dr. King and his legacy. But what many don't remember or may not know, before the August 28, 1963 speech in Washington, 4 years before that, Dr. King was actually here in Iowa City. And Dr. King spoke on November 11, 1959 at the Memorial Union. And he was introduced by the great Professor Robert Michelson at the School of Music. And Dr. King talked about the race relation before the infamous speech. And you can still listen to that speech at the Memorial Union. And the great Gazette, not Gazette, and the University of Iowa still have the speech, and they still have the record of that speech as well. And the room was full. There was people standing outside of the union listening to that speech. And that just goes to prove that even 60-plus years ago, Iowa City, we were in the front line of the human rights and making changes and pushing changes in our state of Iowa. And today, we are still doing that, even though we are just the little blue dot in the sea of red in our state. And that should never discourage us to keep pushing the limit. The great speech of Dr. King, the dream of Dr. King, of one day seeing his kid holding hands and not being judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, it's what most of us want our kids to be judged by. Many of us did not choose the color of our skin. Many of us did not choose the accent that we speak with. We were just happened to be born in different countries. Or we just happened to be born with beautiful parents that had the beautiful skin that they gave us. So it was not a choice that we made. I always say, if you're gonna judge me by the choice that I make. Judge me by the color of the car I pick, or judge me by the work I do. Judge me because I chose to run for council. Some of us chose not to. and so those are the things you judge me by. But don't judge me by the things that I did not choose. 60-plus years later, Dr. King's dream is more important today than it was back then. 60-plus years later, we are still fighting for little black boys and black girls to hold hand and walk down the street without being judged. We're still fighting for them to be viewed as brothers and sisters. 60-plus years later, we are fighting for our immigrant brothers and sisters who came here for the search of that dream. Now they're being chased like criminals and animals on the streets, even though they are making contribution in this country, and some of them even more than those that were born here. Everything else, but we still have more homeless in the street. We say you have more people now visiting our food pantries than ever before. The poverty rate is still growing, and the disparity between riches and the poor are just growing and growing and growing. But we still, on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, thank you for this proclamation, and let's keep Dr. King's dream alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to move on to our consent agenda, items 3 through 8. You can throw in the basket. So if you wanted to have that pre-filled out, you're more than welcome to get them in the back. We'll ask that you state your name and city you're from, and you'll be allotted up to 3 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Alvin, and I often would not see anybody that looked like me. In 1962, in the University of Iowa, it was not safe for people that looked like me to walk the streets of our city alone at night. Now, you're probably thinking like, wow, you know, we got a radical up there, but I'm not a radical. In a way, I kind of want to give our city a pat on the back, because here tonight, I want to share with you that through God, all things are possible. The environment that I encountered in 1962 when I came to our city was threatening, intimidating, and not safe for people that look like me. But today in our city, anyone can walk the street. There are nobody hollering N-word or racial slurs. And if that happens, it's not a regular thing. It's somebody that's got a problem that eventually we may have to deal with. Our city has grown. Our city has come a long ways. And I think due to the fact that we've had good people in our city, good administration and good people coming to our city is a much better and safer place today than it was in 1962. So I just wanted to share with you that I feel that, you know, you guys are doing one hell of a good job. But there are things that still need to be done. So I hope that you will continue to have open minds and invite the public to come before you. And when they do speak, you continue to hear them and do those things that are necessary to keep our city safe and strong. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just invite people up. Please come forward. Welcome.
Hi. Marie Krebs here in Iowa City. I am here to speak about the vote that happened this morning. Felt like a punch in the gut, so I'm here to speak on that. Today, a majority of you voted to strip a Black immigrant woman of her position in power. I can't think of one reason why this was a good idea. I tried to think about it. I tried to understand, and maybe I don't understand. But I'm left to assume that the white supremacist patriarchal pyramid scheme has struck again. It seems to always be striking. At a time when our immigrant relatives are under attack, their voices should be amplified, not pushed aside. For me, representation matters, Representation is very important. For me, there's pride in seeing a woman of color in power, and not just any woman of color, one that I see in the streets taking care of the people. Being a good relative from what I've seen. Us women of color often hold our communities together with duct tape and bare threads, carrying all of the weight with little or even no support. And yet we still manage to do the impossible. As a young person, it wasn't fancy social workers and professionals holding my community together. It was the Black and brown grandmothers. And I can't think of more important voices to stand in power than Black and brown matriarchs. Women of color deserve to be inspired and have hope. And in my opinion and how I felt, y'all took some of that away from me today. Just to be clear, I'm not saying people should have positions because they are women of color, just in general. I'm saying there aren't many of us as the great beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI have gone to white women. So when we have a rare situation in which to support a woman of color who has gained the respect of community, who stands as a good relative to all of us, I think we should stand behind her. Lastly, I'd like to point out that white supremacy is an illness that infects more than just white people. I've seen the promise of money and power poison many of my skin folk. This vote, in my opinion, is not a good look, and I hope there's not enough money and power on earth that makes me throw my relatives under the bus. I truly hope that my assumptions are wrong, very wrong. I want that to be true. And that maybe there's a real reason behind this that makes sense. I can't think of any. And in my 47 years of life, I've seen a pattern. So I was very disappointed. We need women of color in positions of power. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, Sakawas, you were standing up. I don't know that people can see. Welcome.
Hi. I'm here to talk about the same thing today. I just was really shocked to hear that Megan Alter self-nominated herself for this position, right? Is that what happened? Okay, so somebody nominated?
Council can engage or
Okay, so
respond.
somebody nominated Megan Alter for this position, and I didn't know what to say because, I mean, during a time when immigrants are being abducted left and right, and Iowa City is supposed to be a place where we're pushing back against that, I just thought it was a really bad look to take out somebody that's been representing immigrants and working for immigrants from day one since she's been here, and somebody who's always on the front line, somebody who's always in the community. Maybe Mazahir isn't at enough committee meetings with folks to show how hard she's working because she's doing all the work with the community, but. Mazahir to me is a great symbol of hope. To imagine, even though it's a ceremonial position, to imagine Mazahir standing next to Bruce in these, in these ceremonial positions at these events, it's a really great look, and it's something that gives us hope in a country right now that is, being overrun by MAGA and white supremacy. And honestly, this little whatever happened here, this little vote that happened this morning, it is a really small example of what's happening at the federal level right now. It makes me upset to think that this is what Iowa City is moving towards. I know that we have to protect the status, well, you have to protect the status quo and keep, them largely, the whites and the well-off comfortable and make moves, so you get their votes. But in this particular matter, we could have kept this really great symbol for black and brown folks, for the immigrant community, especially at a time when people are living in so much fear. I mean, what's next? Partnering with ICE and putting together a detention center here? I'm just saying, this just ousting an immigrant right now just looks really bad to me out of this position. And I just really hope that you can do better. This is a little liberal bastion, in Iowa, and I know that this council is trying to do better. But the four of you, right, I don't know what you're doing, but please, for the sake of trans people, black people, brown people, women, immigrants, vote better and think outside of what makes you comfortable and what makes, these wealthy and privileged circles comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello. Hello. My name is Abigail Escatel. I am a resident of Iowa City. I'm also a PhD candidate that's about to graduate in June as Dr. Escatel. And I am coming to you this morning because I heard the same disturbances from community folks that actually show up on the ground to be brave in this time, right? And I've never had the privilege of actually meeting you, Mazahir Salih, but I've heard amazing things from you about you this morning, and a lot of disturbed people. At one of the this morning, we did migrant accompaniments, I should say this kind of afternoon, and in that space, we talked about what was happening in Iowa City and how people were disturbed that Megan Alter got the position, specifically saying something like to the effect of, I want to represent migrants. In that move, right, in representing migrants, she's actually removing a migrant who would best understand that subject position, right? And so I want to speak on behalf of the people who actually know her and who have talked about her, and I want to represent those people. And so some of the things to provide receipts for how amazing and remarkable she was as representation. She has been in several of these on-the-ground movements. So She has attended Orange Shirt Day, Solidarity for Sudan protests. She led an immigrant welcome network and hosting Voices of Resilience. She used to be a leader for the Center of Worker Justice. At least she did a lot of help with that. Police Review Board, Global Food Project. She's been organizing Sudanese events in response to genocide for years. Anytime a vote for Palestine has come up or been discussed, she's voiced full support. Center for Worker Justice, of course, is another one. She turns up for SHPAP, which is a group at the University of Iowa that professionalizes students of color or marginalized students, disadvantaged students who don't have a lot of opportunity to get on the pre-med track, right? And that's really competitive, and it's an amazing program. And Iowa Human Rights. And she's been on one or more statewide housing task forces. One of the things one of my comrades said is, I think of her is that she stands in solidarity and support of immigrants from everywhere, uplift voices and experiences across cultures. One of her first, or the first, she is one of the first, or actually the first, Sudanese American to hold this office in this country. And for all these reasons, I'm disappointed for you not to protect that role that she plays.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Roy Sand Porter, Iowa City, Iowa. I also want to speak from personal experience. I too lost my seat as the first African American woman elected to a county seat. I know what it is. I know what it feels like when history is made and then seemingly set aside. I know what it feels like when your service, your sacrifice, and your leadership are acknowledged one moment and removed the next. That loss is not just political, it is personal, and it ripples through the community that you represent. What I learned through that experience is this: when trailblazers lose positions of leadership, it does not just affect one person, it affects trust, it affects belief, it affects whether the next generation thinks it is worth stepping forward at all. That is why moments like today matter, not because leadership changes are illegal or improper, but because they sit within a much larger historical context, one where black leadership, especially black women leadership, is often harder to gain than easier to lose. We can celebrate Mayor Bruce Teague's victory, and I do, while still being honest about the pain and concern surrounding Mazahir Salah's loss of the mayor pro tem. Both truths deserve space. Dr. King reminded us that progress is fragile if we are unwilling to confront uncomfortable realities. Speaking up is not divisive, it is necessary. And so today I want to tell you, being in this position, if you lose a position, it does not make, or it does not stop who you are. We continue the work. There is work for us to do, and we do it. Nothing stops. So for them to get up here and act like everything has been taken away from you, it has not. You will continue to do what you do because that's who we are. And one more thing I want to say really quickly is that Mayor and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s resolution. Dr. King was not just a dreamer, he was a disruptor of injustice. He challenged systems, policies, and practices that deny dignity to black people and to all people pushed to the margins. He reminded us that justice is not passive and that equality is not something we wait for. It is something we must actively work for. Honoring Dr. King means more than words on paper or celebrations once a year. It means committing ourselves every day to the values he lived and died for: fairness, compassion, courage, and accountability. It means asking hard questions about who is being left out, who is being unheard, and who continues to carry the heaviest burdens in our community. In our city, we pride ourselves on being welcome and progressive. This resolution, this proclamation changes us to ensure those values are reflected not only in our statements, but in our policies, our budgets, and our actions. It calls us us to invest in people, protect the most vulnerable, and ensure that opportunity is not determined by race, zip code, or income. One thing Dr. King said was the time is always right to do what is right, and we continue to do that. Please join us on the morning of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day on January the 19th at Mercer Park. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please state your name and city you're from.
My name is Marion Coleman, and I am actually from South Carolina, but I lived in Iowa City longer than anywhere else. I wanted to speak tonight because I feel I have something to say that's really important. I'm a person of color who came here in 1969. I worked as a teacher. I think I see one of my students sitting up there. And I also worked at trying to be a leader in Iowa City. I came here with my master's degree. Then I was told that I needed to go back to the university and get a degree in leadership. I did that. After I did that, still couldn't get a leadership job. Okay, but I didn't stop trying because in myself, I knew who I was and what I had to offer. I came from South Carolina. I went to segregated schools. Didn't know there would ever be an opportunity for me to work in a place like Iowa City, to live in a place like Iowa City, to raise my kids in a place like Iowa City. My kids are professionals. They work in all kinds of positions. I am proud of what they were able to do, but they were mostly born and lived here. I went to a segregated college. I went to a segregated graduate school. I came to Iowa because my husband got a Ford Fellowship, God knows how, to get his PhD. And so I had to come. But I was also working at the University of Georgia afterwards in a segregated school. So when I came to Iowa City, it was like, whoa, you know, what has he done to me? So I'm just saying that my whole reason for being here is that I tried to get a leadership position in Iowa City 4 times. And I was doing my job. And if anybody knows me, I was doing my job in the community. I was doing my job anywhere I could fit in. And trying to fit in as a minority is tough. But after 3 tries, I became the equity director for Iowa City Community School District. And I stayed there for 30 years. Iowa City is still a hard place to be in. Iowa City, you have to work, you have to look forward, you have to have faith in God. But what I want to say is just because it didn't happen the first time doesn't mean that it won't happen. If you have the stick-to-itiveness and the perseverance to keep trying and doing and showing, you have people who know what you did. I have people who knew and know what I did. But to this day, I will tell you, it's difficult to know that after 30 years in the Iowa City School District, I am the only African-American administrator to retire from here. Okay, so I'm saying that we still have leaders and we still have people with stick-to-itness. But I would like to just say it doesn't mean anything is over. Just because somebody else says it doesn't mean it. So stay in there, fight.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Billy Townsend, and I am not from Iowa City. Everybody knows I'm from St. Louis. And again, like everyone else said, this was the biggest shock of my life when I moved here. But I found out it was a place that my 7-year-old, who's now 44, could grow and really become a man. The thing that I found out from Iowa City is, yeah, black women, it's hard to get up and really make a difference when you want to. At the University of Iowa, I was there for almost 30 years, mostly support staff, got my master's from the University of Iowa, applied for 10 jobs as PNS, professional and scientific. Never got it till my last 4 years when I was 70, about to retire. And so my last 4 years, I was a director of a program. which was amazing. But I was kept down, but I kept going. Every Martin Luther King program from the time I started, I put on. It's amazing how much you can do as long as you don't get the credit for it. And that's kind of where we are. And I think what we do and what you all do is you're doing amazing things, even though you don't always get the credit for it. And even though you're not always given what you think you deserve. But we have to do it. It's for our children. I'm 80. So for my 44-year-old and my grandchildren, I want Iowa City to be safe. I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be led by people who have not only the concern of the rich, but the concern of the poor. And my thing, as you all know, is affordable housing. When I drive around and see people living on the streets in the winter, it hurts my heart. And there's nothing we can do about it individually. But as all of us together, if we do the right thing, we can make it work. So we don't have to get the credit, we just have to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, okay. Yep. And this will be our final speaker, because I don't think I saw any other hands raised during this time. Welcome.
Thank you. Nicole Yeager, Iowa City. There's a lot I'd like to say today, but I'll keep it to 3 minutes. You know, this summer, I'm here also to speak to that I believe that Mazaher should be mayor pro tem. I was really surprised this morning. I'm not sure who nominated or why they thought that was a good idea, but I mean, statewide, this is embarrassing. I come from small town rural Iowa. I have heard from my small town rural Iowa, I'm sorry, sorry. People really, Mazaher's leadership meant something not just to Iowa City. And this summer, I got to see just how much she means to our community. I got to be at Immigrant Welcome Network most days during the week and see how she truly, like her phone is ringing, multiple phones ringing at all times. She's answering them, responding to all kinds of needs. I'm not sure if other counselors are that on the ground. I just can't imagine you are. And as I was there this summer, ICE was ramping up and the fear was there. And earlier today, Mazaher said, it's not just about the symbolism, it's about how grounding it is to have her in that position. And I saw that because we were talking about it constantly. Is ICE going to come here? Where are they going next? And ultimately, some of the folks we talking with be like, but you know what? We have her there. And that means something. People felt safer, they felt more protected, and they knew that their voices were being heard and relayed. And that doesn't just go for the immigrant community. Mazaher is so intersectional. She's the only person, only council member I saw when the Johnson County supervisors were voting for the Equal Protections Resolution for trans folks. The only one, which I know folks are busy, but that said, her being there so mattered. I've done some labor organizing, and when I look at this council, all of you are wonderful, of course, but when I think of who's really fought the hardest for workers, it is Mazaher, absolutely. That means so much for so many of us. And so to see you all, I'm concerned about the future of this next year or so on council with all of you. Is this a sign of how you're going to vote? We need people to be able to be fed and housed. Mazaher is seeing this day in, day out in the work that she does. And I honestly call for some transparency. How is this decision made? Who nominated? Why? And also, Megan, I ask that you maybe tender your resignation and step down. I know you care about Iowa City, but you can be there voting. You don't have to be in this role. I've gone to rallies, seen Mazaher stand there with that title, and it's really meant something. And I know that you being there matters too, but right now, as ICE is circling, it matters perhaps a lot more for Mazaher to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone that came during this time to speak. We're going to move on to item 10, which is planning and zoning matters. 10A is preliminary and final plat, Iowa Meadows, resolution approving the preliminary and final plat of Iowa Meadows subdivision, Iowa City, Iowa. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Mo.
Second, Sally.
All right, and then welcome Danielle.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Danielle Sisman, Neighborhood and Development Services. As you introduced, this is a prelim and final plat for Iowa Meadows, located here in the dashed white outline. This is properties at 1257 and 1527 Slothour Road. They previously were annexed into the city and never subdivided, but kind of divided into two homestead parcels in the late 60s and early 70s. The current owners are requesting approval of the combined prelim and final plat tonight to create an 18.2 acre subdivision where those two existing homes would be on two lots, and there would be three other outlots created. And the proposed subdivision would allow for the sale of the land that does not have the homes on them. This is the actual plat diagram submitted with the application. As I said, it's never been subdivided before. They're not actually proposing any development at this time. It's largely agricultural where it's not already occupied by homes. The future land use map and the district plan both indicate either low-density residential development or future urban development in this area. However, there is no city sewer service at this time, and one or more lift stations would need to be constructed before future development could occur. Given that the proposed subdivision is to just simply create lots for the existing single-family homes and will not result in any additional development, the proposed subdivision is consistent with the comprehensive plan at this time. As far as subdivision standards go, the proposed subdivision meets the required subdivision standards. It does have access to a roadway that's unimproved, and as I said, any additional development in the area would require additional improvements to be made to bring it to urban standards at that time. As I said, it's not intended to result in that at this time. So here we are at the prelim and final plat. There is a subdividers agreement as part of this that outlines all of those conditions, and staff does recommend adoption of this resolution. And at their December 3rd, 2025 meeting, by a vote of 7-0, the Planning and Zoning Commission concurred with staff's recommendation. I'm happy to answer questions.
Hearing no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. I don't see anyone online right now. Seeing no one in person. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Sala,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Wyline.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. 10B, rezoning west of Ava Circle and south of Kennedy Parkway. Ordinance rezoning approximately 13.60 acres of property from interim development Research Park to medium-density single-family residential for 4.75 acres and rural residential for 8.85 acres for property located at west of Ava Circle and south of Kennedy Parkway. This is the second consideration, and staff is requesting expedited action.
I move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for final passage at 2 meetings prior to the meeting at which is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Moved by Mo,
Second.
seconded by Alter. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Yes, welcome.
Gina Landau from Navigate Homes. I'm actually the applicant, my company is, and I know that this is a rezoning, but there's always questions about what the plan is, and the plan is 19 single-family homes. We're real close to the interstate, so they'll be slightly smaller than the area that's adjacent to it, but comparable, and so that's basically what is driving this rezoning request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's anything else from the council on that. Anyone from the public like to address this topic that was a part of the development team? Seeing no one, council discussion.
Build those homes.
Yeah.
All right, roll call, please.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Sala,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes,
Wyline.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
So moved, Mo.
Second, Sally.
Roll call, please.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo? Yes. Saw?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 11 is our regular formal agenda, 11A, 2026 Parking Garages Maintenance and Repair Project. This is a resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the 2026 Parking Garages Maintenance and Repair Project. Establish an amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Joe Welter from Engineering. So this is our annual project. This year we'll be working at 3 of the ramps, Chauncey Swan, Court Street Transportation, and Dubuque Street ramp. You can see a lot of list of different things that we're going to be doing. I tried to highlight the ones that were kind of the bigger items. So Chauncey Swan, we're going to be doing $230,000 of new membrane. At Court Street, we're going to do penetrating sealer through the full ramp. That's going to be $220,000. Dubuque Street, we have recoating of some membrane, $180,000 for that. And also at Dubuque Street, new membrane, $360,000. So that's almost $1 million worth of work between those items. We are going to try a new heavy-duty membrane on the turning radiuses in the Dubuque Street. It's a new product that we haven't used before, but the university has used and had some really good success with it. So we're pretty excited to try that on this project. You'll notice construction costs $1.25 million. Normally, our projects in the last couple of years have been $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. So this is a substantially bigger project. We're addressing a lot of needs that we've had for quite some time. And that has been something that parking has been asking for some more funding, and we've gotten that more funding. And so we're finally getting to that point of getting these bigger projects done, and hopefully going to catch up with a lot of the maintenance that we haven't gotten to on the ramps. Got a bid opening at the end of the month, award in February. Construction, we're starting a little bit earlier than normal. Normally, we wait till middle of May, but with the extra work that we have in this contract, we want to start a couple months early. So there will be some disruption there when the students are still in town and parking in the ramps. So we'll have some creativity with the contractor, depending on who gets picked, figuring out how we're going to do traffic control and keep people in the ramp while still doing our maintenance. We are trying to get the project done before the beginning of the school year, so mid-August with a final completion in September. Shive Hattery has been our consultant for going on our 6th year here with their contract, so do an excellent job, and we're really satisfied with what they've been doing. So, any questions?
The timing of construction in Chauncey Swan and locations, how does that impact farmers market?
That's a great question, and until we get the contractor selected and see what they're proposing, I won't have a perfect answer for that, but we will be restricting their activities to not impact those kinds of events. We have that in the contract documents, and so they're aware of that concern. We have some penetrating sealer on the lower level where the farmers market occurs. Most of the work, though, is up on the 2nd and 3rd level where staff and the Chauncey Hotel and public parks up in those areas. So we might have to move some people up. A lot of times we tried to do the work on the top deck and then we move down and then we push people up. And so probably something along those lines, try to minimize that impact. So.
Joe, you mentioned there will be new membrane installed in the Dubuque Street ramp.
Yeah, new type of membrane.
Can you explain what the membrane is in the context of a parking deck?
Yeah. So it's that gray. It's kind of got a rough coat to it. So especially on the top decks of many of our ramps, we have that now. Capitol has that. Dubuque has that. Tower has that. So you'll see that a lot of places. This heavier duty membrane, it's a black instead of a gray. It's a lot thicker. So the membrane goes on in 3 coats. So you have a base coat, an intermediate coat, and then a top coat. And so this material is actually down at the IMU ramp, and it's done really well. If you've ever been in that ramp, it's really tight corners. Does really good on the radiuses. So we're hoping that this will wear and last a little bit longer. It has a longer warranty period to it. And so our designer was thinking that it was time for us to try something like this. The extra price point is only a little bit, but the warranty period is almost twice as long on the product. So we're hoping that this will make it so that we don't have to go back and redo that membrane quite as often, especially on those turning areas where the most traffic wear occurs.
Thank you.
And that membrane has a grip to it, which is good. It also, does it protect the concrete from especially salts and water getting into the concrete? Is that its purpose?
Yeah, so the penetrating sealer, like I talking about that we're going to do on the lower level of Chauncey and then in Court Street Transportation Center, that's the first line of defense that we do. So when a ramp's still relatively new and we haven't had much salt intrusion into the ramp, we put that penetrating sealer on. That only lasts a couple of years. Once you get to putting the membrane on, that's what you're fixed with. You can't ever kind of go back to a lesser thing. You're always going to be coating and recoating that with membrane, but it does keep the moisture out of the joints, and it keeps the moisture out of the slab. With that moisture in the wintertime comes chlorides, because we use salt to get rid of ice and snow. And so once that gets down in the slab and then starts eating away at the metal, the rebar, the reinforcing, so that's what we're trying to do, is keep that intrusion out of the deck, the slab.
And make the parking garages last forever.
I won't guarantee that, but we're staving off something major by doing these repairs, and especially the level that we're doing this year is really going to help us start catching up. So if we can put some of these bigger projects together several years in a row, we'll really catch up on a lot of the maintenance that we need to do.
Is anything in these repairs related to some of the doors that go into anything like that?
We have a separate project this year to start working on doors. We're starting at the tower ramp. That's not a formal project, so it's not coming before council because of the dollar amount. But we are starting on those projects. It's a different CIP number, different CIP fund. We started with tower because of some of the needs there, and then we're going to start going into some of the other ramps with that. So it's going to be like we've done with other maintenance things. It starts in one ramp, and then we're going to start working our way around to different ones. Yeah.
I asked because the downtown ambassadors mentioned to me when I met with them a couple times about some need specifically in towers, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, tower is going to get that this year. We did some repairs on Dubuque Street 2 years ago on some of the doors in Dubuque Street. So, and we're going to be working on some stair wells in Capitol Street here in the near future, and we'll probably address the door concerns there at that time. So.
Well, sound like no more questions about membranes and all that stuff, so thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this topic? Seeing no one come forth, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Mo?
Second, Burgess.
All right, council discussion.
Just throw down the membranes.
All right.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mo?
Yes.
Sala?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. 11B, collector well number 1, structural electrical upgrades and well reconstruction project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the collector well number 1, structural electrical upgrades and well reconstruction project. Establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Hi, I'm John with Iowa City Water. So this is a collector well. We have 5 of these. I found a nice photo from the flood of 2008 of collector well 1. I brought it up because this is a nice show of what it is, why it's important, and it's not the first time we've put money into this well, because after that flood, we had to raise all that electrical that you can kind of see peeking above the sandbag mounds there. So collector well 1 is the farthest north point there with the arrow on it. Then you can see the water plant to the south. For this project, there's 2 bid packages. The first bid package is what we're talking about today. The second bid package is to divert our lagoon solids effluent water over to the collector well 1. That way we can reuse it in our treatment process. After it goes through the lime solid settling process, it's basically clarified water, and it would be nice to just reuse it instead of put it back in the river. That project, or that bid package, is currently still being reviewed by the regulators, so we don't know when or if we're going to be able to bring that one before council. So we'll be doing the first bid package on collector well 1, which involves quite a bit of work. So just a little bit of background information on what a collector well is. This is a graphic that I pulled off of Rainy Collector Wells. But that middle caisson there is about a 16-foot diameter concrete tube, essentially, sunk into the ground. In our case, those tubes are about 50 feet deep. Then at the bottom, you can see there's those things called laterals. Those are screens. So they do is they go down and they cut a hole in the side of the caisson, and then they hydraulically jack the screens out into the aquifer. In this case, that aquifer is an alluvial aquifer, so it's essentially groundwater under the influence of the Iowa River. So it gives us nice filtration to start. So we use the riverbank and this alluvium to filter the water before we draw it up into the plant to treat it. So we have really good quality source water because of this function. So these collector wells are key to us being able to minimize the dissolved organic carbons and all the things that come from that in our drinking water. So it's our nice first barrier. Our second great barrier is our granular activated carbon filters. So these wells were installed in 2000. All wells fail over time. Their specific yield lessens. Collector well 1 right now is basically not functioning. We pump it once a day just to keep everything fresh. So overnight it kind of fills up, and then we pump it down in the morning, and then it just fills up again overnight. Just do that to run the water through the system, because if you let it sit there, it'll corrode over time. So the scope is quite extensive. We got to modify the well house when they were installed. It didn't give all the access hatches needed for today's best practices. We need to abandon one of the laterals that seemed to kind of swivel out of the way and up into the river, so it's not so much doing what it needs to do, it floated. We need to rehab 2 of the other existing well laterals, install 2 new laterals, do all the pump testing, pump sizing, and install new pumps, and then test a couple other well sites, and then set up for the installation of lagoon effluent and repair any trails damaged during the work. And there will be some intermittent impacts on pedestrian traffic in that area during the project. So as far as the scope, this image here just shows the roof plan. So in the center there's quite a large rectangle. Well, that's just a big hole they're going to cut in it and put a hatch over the top. That gives us access to both of the wells, as well as the middle hatch, which they use as sort of a ad hoc elevator to bring people up and down out of the well while they're working. So that was the big feature that we need in order to conform with best practices for confined space and retrieval methods. This is showing the laterals. They're the dashed lines radiating out from the caisson. So one with the X's off to kind of the north and east there is the one that's to be abandoned. Then there's 2 that are going to be essentially jetted. So they just put a high pressure water jet down there and drag out any of the sand and debris that's collected in and over the years. And then they'll push out 2 new 12-inch laterals. Hopefully this will increase the production and extend the life of this well. Schedule, so bid letting here in February, award February 17th, and then construction season, or the construction period, is quite extended, mainly because there's not very many contractors that do this work. There's only 2 that we know of, and they tend to be booked up pretty solid. So we need to give a bit of a window there so we can get on their schedule for this work. it's likely that we'll have a general contractor, and those contractors that do the actual lateral work will be a subcontractor to that. Estimated cost is $3.5 million, and Aline and I have been working on this project. Any questions?
So the original lateral wells had filled or failed or one of each? Is the idea that these things are not forever infrastructure, they need to be constantly replaced, or?
Correct, yeah, there's, with any well, whether it be oil, gas, water, they wear out over time and they lose their capacity, so you have to rehabilitate them. In this case, when the wells were originally installed, it was kind of a new technology in the U.S., and the installer for one of those laterals didn't do what they needed to do, and it kind of wiggle-waggled itself up out of the alluvium. So we knew over time that that was happening, and we had to close that one off. The other two then slowly fouled with bacteria over time. So all those screens have, essentially small pores, and they occlude over time. And so you have to send divers down there to inspect them, and then once you figure out what's going on, then you have to pick the right rehabilitation method to bring them back. You never quite know what you're going to get with a well. So in this case, we'll get those two laterals rehabbed, we'll push the other two out, and we're shooting for getting ourselves back to where it was when it was originally installed and turned as production.
And is the expectation, though, that every 20, 30 years,
Yes.
a major project needs to be done that's just the way the system works?
Yes,
Okay.
and this is one of 5. So we did collector wells 3 and 4, just rehab them. We found that the screens were kind of oversized, so we were pulling a lot of sand in. But eventually, those wells are going to need work as well to put more capacity laterals in there. But then you have to play the hydrogeologics with it, because, you can't just take more water out of one and not impact the other. So you have to look at the cones of depression and whatnot. And there's a pretty good group, the Iowa Geologic Survey at the IHR, that helps us out quite a bit when we do the hydrogeologics. So this project has been in the works for, like 5 years. We've been studying the wells, the hydrogeographic profiles in the area, what makes sense as far as the investment, contemplating, are we having a sunk cost fallacy here? Should we do something else? But after all the study and everything, even going so far as to put, a dollar per MGD produced on the life cycle cost analysis, this project makes sense for the dollars that we're spending on it.
Thanks.
Just out of curiosity, you said that you're using sand to filter the water before it comes to the plant, so you treat up. Is this like mechanism you are, like, is this like what we used to use and still using it, or this is new thing you are adding?
This has been in the system since the plant was constructed. So these
Okay.
wells, I think, were actually completed before the plant went online.
Yeah, and also I'm curious to know, like, how deep is the will go down, like, of the river where you get the sand around it?
Yeah, we actually have a relatively shallow alluvial aquifer along the Iowa River, and so these caissons are typically about 50 feet deep. Groundwater resources, the Silurian and Jordan aquifer in our region, the Silurian's 500 feet deep. We have 3 of those wells, and the Jordan is 1,500 feet deep, and we have 1 of those wells. But we use those in the summer for nitrate dilution.
Sure. That's cool.
Yeah, I was curious if there's, because y'all would know, out of curiosity, if there's any, because this is something like what Councilor Moe was saying, it's just going to need to be replaced every 20 to 30 years, and there's 5 of them. Is there any cool on the horizon technology that you're excited about that maybe we could look forward to?
There's interesting technologies, but they all have a price tag, and none of them are applicable to our wells.
Okay.
And just to clarify, we're not replacing the wells, we're just rehabilitating the existing wells.
Yeah.
We are doing 2 test wells during this project, but we anticipate that we wouldn't look to put in new horizontal collector wells. We would probably stick with vertical wells because they're less capital intensive and easier to maintain over time. So for instance, like Cedar Rapids does about a 60 MGD per day, which is 10 times the amount of water we produce. And their well field along the Cedar River to the north, I think, has a handful of collector wells and then periodically spaced vertical wells so that the cones of depression aren't influencing each other. So if you ever drive along, I forget the name of the road, but close to the Cedar River, you'll see wells, very tall wells because they get them up out of the floodplain with all the electronics just along the way, spaced out. So that's kind of a similar setup as that we would probably explore going forward with any new wells, is sticking with vertical wells because they're overall less expensive to maintain.
Okay.
And this is all enterprise fund.
Correct.
All right, thank you much. Is there anyone from the public that would like to discuss this topic? Seeing no one in person or online, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Alter.
Second, Wyline.
Council discussion.
I think great. We have great water in Iowa City. So
Yeah. Yeah.
exciting.
Roll call, please.
Sala,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes?
Wyline,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 11C, Iowa City Fire Department Station 2 Ambulance Agreement. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and the city clerk to attest to a share and endowment, and I can't say this word easily, and I can't even say it, indemnification agreement. Yeah, what you said. And Johnson County to allow Johnson County Ambulance Service to store and operate an ambulance from Fire Station 2. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Eric Gores.
Thank you, Mayor. So the idea behind this agreement is to co-locate the ambulance service in our various fire departments. As council is aware, the fire department, or fire stations, I should say, are scattered throughout the city so that they can improve their response time. Well, same thing goes for the ambulance that is co-located there. We've had one of these co-location agreements at Station 4 on the northeast side since 2016, and we've got a lot of growth on the west side, and it was decided that co-locating at Station 2 would make sense as well. That's the one on Emerald Street over by Finkbine Golf Course. So we've taken the agreement from Station 4 and basically replicated it for Station 2, and that's what brings us here.
Hearing no questions. Anyone from the public like to talk about this indemnification agreement?
No.
Seeing no one from the public, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So move, Saleh.
Second, Burgess.
All right, moved by Saleh, seconded by Burgess. Council discussion.
I just like that the expansion is happening.
I just remembered that I maybe had a question. I don't know if this would be for what staff or it would be for the chief. So apologies for not being timely with that. So I kind of just learned recently that I think it's a pretty new, a newer situation that I don't know if it's just by county or if municipalities can consider ambulance services to be an essential service, and then you can like levy a tax maybe on that. I was wondering if maybe having this type of an agreement, if that's been explored, or if we're thinking or planning on doing something like that, and that makes this kind of agreement more lucrative. I don't know if anybody can speak to that.
Well, I'll let the city manager make comments about whether that other idea has been explored. I'm not aware of that. This is not lucrative. We're not getting any money.
Lucrative is a bad word, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is just, we're doing basically for the benefit of our residents so that they can get quicker service. You know, we do have the indemnification that's important to the city. It's particularly important to people in my office. And so we're covered in that regard. But basically, they have to kind of earn their keep, so to speak, in the bay and bedrooms that they get. But I don't know if the city manager has any additional comments about funding.
Yeah, the levy you're referencing was created by the state legislature a handful of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago maybe. And at the time, there was a discussion about that. It's really got to start at the county level. So Johnson County kind of has to lead that. But area fire chiefs did look at that. Again, it's been a few years. I don't recall all the specifics. There was a decision not to proceed. So I'd have to do some background to get you more information on that, but it was looked at shortly after the legislation was passed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Roll call, please.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Sala?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. 11D, Emergency Water Conservation Ordinance. Ordinance amending Title 16 entitled Public Works, Chapter 3, City Utilities, Article C, Potable Water Use and Service. And staff is requesting expedited action. This is the second consideration.
I would move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for the passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting in which to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Moved by Mo.
Second, Saleh.
All right, public discussion. Anyone want to address this topic? Seeing no one in person, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Sala?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
So
Moved. Alter.
second. Mo?
Roll call, please.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Sala?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. 11E, trash removal in downtown alleys. Ordinance amending Title 16 entitled Public Works, Chapter 3 entitled City Utilities, Article H entitled Solid Waste, Section 7 entitled Storage of Solid Waste, to require property and business owners within the downtown area subject to the solid waste container permit system to contract with a commercial waste hauler. This is the second consideration. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Alter.
Second. Mo?
All right. And anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one? Council discussion?
I was curious if we could do an expedited consideration for this because bringing up our downtown ambassadors again, I mean, I don't know if I would like to make them clean a bunch of crap from the alleys that for 2 more weeks if we can just get it done now, because that's been a huge pain for them, you know, just being in the cold weather, like scraping garbage off of the ground. So that's, I would be into that.
I will say, at least this was something that was considered by staff to be expedited. I chose to not have this expedited on this agenda item, mainly because we have whomever the folks are. I don't want anything to be expedited, you know, if there's any trouble down the way. And that is the reason why I chose to just let it go as normal course because if someone is potentially going to challenge something at some point, I just think going the regular route is often what this council has typically done. And so that is the reason why I chose to keep it just in the 3 votes as the council normally, you know, do it. But that was just my logic behind it.
Yeah.
But the question would be for the city attorney, is this something going, if we expedite it, it will be like taken against us somehow?
Well, I think the mayor is addressing a different question than you're posing to me, which is why he kind of made a political decision for why he would want to extend it. If your question for me is legally, can you? The answer is yes. The council could, since we've already got a motion on the table, I would suggest go ahead and passing the second consideration, if that's the will of council, and then having a motion to waive, I guess, third consideration, and then to go ahead and then voting yet another time.
Sure.
Yeah. And I understand if people need some more time, if we think that maybe businesses need more time to be able to prepare to comply with this. I just really feel for the folks who have to clean up this crap like in the alleyways. You know, their jobs are already hard.
But also, my question will be like, even if we expedite it and approve it today, is this going to be affected tomorrow, or it have like?
It would be effective upon publication.
Okay.
Which would be a few days from,
Few
city clerk
days.
may have some more specificity to that, but it would be several days away at least.
Sure.
Typically the second Thursday following the meeting.
The second
Next
follow,
week.
okay, sure.
But this issue is not the first time that impacted or affected businesses are learning of this, of
Well,
this
this is the
issue.
second reading.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying that this isn't the first time that these businesses found out that, oh, I've done something wrong, is I don't have a permit, or I'm putting it in the wrong place. The first time they're finding out about this is not from
It was almost a month ago.
us, right? They've been aware that this is a
Yeah, at least
concern
the
and that this is
businesses
coming
that
before
I'm aware
council.
of who have been causing problems are aware and have been aware for some time.
And I would just say for myself, the expedited readings, I usually kind of gauge, is there public input? Do we have input? Is there concerns that might be addressed at the next reading? I would be very comfortable expediting this one.
Yes.
I'm okay expediting also.
So, yeah.
Understanding the logic that you have.
Yeah.
But I
no,
think that,
Being conservative about.
Thoughtful.
yeah.
That was fine.
So we should vote on the second reading and then do the expedition motion?
Yes, I would suggest you go ahead and vote on this second reading, and then some council member, whose last name probably is Mo, shall read the motion to expedite, and then you vote on that, and then vote for the third and final reading.
Sure.
If there's no more discussion, then roll call, please.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Salah,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Wyline.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And then I'd like to move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote,
The third.
that the third consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance and vote that's not really what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I'd
So,
have to listen more carefully.
yeah, so
Paragraph on there, yeah.
You
I
read
think
the
there's
second
like
one.
3 different.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have the card
No, that's okay.
with me.
2 passage meetings prior to the meeting, which is to be finally passed, be suspended. That's the first, there's no language for that on my card.
Then, oh, there is another one there.
And I can, I would prefer to read it for this particular instance.
To make sure it's right.
Is it waiving second consideration?
Yes, we're waiving the third.
Waiving.
And that the
or
ordinance
giving
be voted
final
on
vote?
for final passage at this time?
Would you have the,
I'll give it a shot.
okay, because this is language we would use.
Okay, so you did not actually make your
No,
motion?
I'd like to withdraw whatever partial.
That's
That's sufficient.
Okay, great, thank you. I move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the third consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Moved by Burgess,
Second, by Sally.
Thank you.
seconded by Saleh. All right, any council discussion?
You should probably ask if there's any public
Oh,
discussion
yes,
too.
any
Probably not,
public-
but
Yeah, anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion? Roll call, please.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Salah,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes?
Wyline,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
So moved, Mo?
Second, Sally.
Roll call, please.
Is
Harmson?
Wasn't that what we just did?
Isn't that what we just did?
Motion to.
Motion to pass and adopt, I think is the appropriate motion.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Salah,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes?
Wyline,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. 11F, Downtown SMID Renewal Ordinance amending Title III Finances, Taxation, and Fees of the City Code to reestablish the Iowa City Downtown Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 386 Code of Iowa and providing for the establishment of an operation fund and the levy of an annual tax in connection therewith. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
Still motion to pass it adopt.
Second.
Sally.
Moved by Saleh, seconded by
Alter?
Alter. Great. And anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one in person or online, council discussion?
Exciting that we making it bigger. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Roll call, please.
Mo?
Yes.
Sala?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, we'll move on to item 11G, state CDBG CV status of funding of funded activities. Resolution approving the status of funded activities for CDBG hyphen CV funds received by the Iowa Economic Development Authority. And could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Mo.
All right, and welcome.
Hello, Erica Kublai with Neighborhood Services. So this item pertains to our CDBG CV shelter operations project in partnership with the Iowa Economic Development Authority and Shelter House. The status of funded activities is a state requirement for CDBG projects where we hold a public meeting and provide an update for council and the public on how the project is going about halfway through completion. In 2025, the state reached out to Iowa City with an opportunity for shelter operational funding through the federal CDBG CV dollars. This funding is tied to the 2020 CARES Act to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. With council support, we agreed to administer this activity, which provides operational funding for Shelter House's emergency facility. It's a 70-bed shelter that operates year-round at 429 Southgate Avenue in Iowa City. We were awarded $301,500 in CDBG CV funds for this project. $300,000 was allocated to Shelter House, and $1,500 in administrative funds goes to city staff time. So Shelter House has expended $181,848 on shelter operations to date, and the city has expended its eligible admin dollars. Accomplishments include provision of emergency shelter to individuals experiencing homelessness, which they're doing ongoing. And since starting the project, we've had one quarterly report that we've received for July through September. This report reflects 165 individuals served, of which 94% are extremely low income and 6% are very low income. So the next quarterly report for October through December will be due in January. Work remaining is to continue shelter operations through May 2026 and expend the remaining available funds. Shelter House is projected to assist 400 individuals under 30% AMI by May 2026. So we are ahead of schedule to meet both the expenditure deadline and the beneficiary numbers by May. And at this time, we don't anticipate any changes to incorporate for this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Since this is under the CARES Act, is this a one-time CDBG CV
Yeah,
grant?
this is a supplemental. I think they must have had extra funds at the end of all of their allocations, so they created this activity. So this is expected to be one time.
And with the work that they've been doing and the work remaining, is any of this apart from their core activities? Or is this just to help them, with ongoing funding for their operations?
I think it's intended just to be ongoing operational funding, so it's basically paying for staffing costs.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, hearing no more questions, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sala?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Wyline?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 11H, Iowa City 2026 State Legislative Priorities. Resolution establishing the City of Iowa City's 2026 State Legislative Priorities. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Mo.
Second, Harmson.
All right, and we'll just ask Kirk to come on back up.
This will be a little quicker than my previous presentation. Kirk Lehman, Assistant City Manager. This is essentially an updated legislative priorities resolution, similar to what you had seen in December, but with those changes made that were requested in that meeting. So it should reflect all the changes. I've summarized them in my memo to you all, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
No?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thought it was great.
It's good, yeah.
All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion.
I'm just appreciative that staff was open to some substantial changes. I think that they really reflect what we as a body want, and appreciate your flexibility in being able to say, yep, we'll make those changes.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Teague,
Yes.
Wyline,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Sala.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 12 is council appointments. 12A is Climate Action Commission. One vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through December 31st, 2027. And we'll enter into council discussions. There were 4 applicants, and wanted to see who people are thinking they want to appoint.
I would like to discuss Alexandra Buchanan. So I've known Alex for years. She's works in this world professionally. Like, she knows the built environment and sustainability things very well. It's also, she's one of those people you'll see riding her station wagon bike with 3 kids in tow around town. So I think she'd be an amazing fit for this commission.
Yeah.
I would agree.
She
I
is my
agree.
top person.
I did want to give, actually, because, we just read them in order. And I loved that Alyssa Bedford was like, I don't know a lot, but I'm really eager to learn. And I love that kind of enthusiasm and people applying for this. And I hope that her name will still be on the list, and that she considers other commissions, because I love the idea of bringing in more people, but I think that we cannot pass on the experience and expertise of Alexandra. So
Yeah, I agree with Alexander. I will say there was another one just like Alyssa that,
Yes.
didn't have experience, and, that willingness just from a lay person to jump on a commission. I think those voices are also important.
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah.
Raimundo.
Yes.
A lot of good candidates, but yeah, we're gonna go with Alexandra.
Yeah. Could I get a motion to appoint Alexander Buchanan?
So moved, Wyline.
Second.
Second, Saleh.
All right, moved by Whiteline, seconded by Saleh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. 13, announcements of vacancies previous. 13A, Public Art Advisory Committee. One vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, January 13, 2026. Airport Zoning Board of Adjustment, one vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Airport Zoning Board of Adjustment, one vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Board of Appeals, one vacancy for a licensed electrician to fill a 5-year term. Board of Appeals, one vacancy for an HVAC professional to fill an unexpired term. Historic Preservation Commission, one vacancy for a Brown Street representative to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, one vacancy for a Jefferson Street representative to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, one vacancy for a Woodlawn Avenue representative to fill a 3-year term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. We're at item number 14, City Council information.
I would just like to highlight that this past week there was put on by young members of our local music scene, our local punk scene, put on a really good benefit show directly for street outreach. They raised over $1,500, like it was directly to street outreach, and got a bunch of physical donations. So shout out to those folks for organizing that, and I love it when young people do things.
Nice. All right, we'll move on to item number 15, reports on items from city staff, city manager's office,
Not tonight, thanks.
city attorneys,
Nothing for me, thank you.
and our city clerk.
I do not.
All right. Item number 16, could I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Burgess, seconded by Sala. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.